What's up ladies and gents, Ghost here, and today I've got another jet tutorial. We're going to be taking a look at how to aim. So aiming in the jets is definitely something that you're going to have to work on for quite a while, guys. It might sound pretty easy, you're probably going to be like, yeah, aiming, right, Ghost. You just aim at the thing and you pull the trigger. Simple as that. But in some cases it's not really, and if you want to take out a target in a single strafing run, whether it's a tank, a heli or an enemy jet, it's going to take some serious practice. So the first thing to understand is the way the HUD works. I do have a video where I went over sensitivities and I went over the HUD, so I'll link that on the screen now if you guys haven't seen that one already. But just to give you guys a quick refresher, there are really three different parts of the HUD. You've got the round circle. Within the round circle you then have your crosshair, which is the most important part. That's the one that's sort of moving around all over the place, depending on how your jet is tilted and how fast you're going, and that is essentially where your bullets are predicted to land. And then there's a little dot in the middle, which is really just your center of fire. That one's not really too important, that's just as well, because most of the time you can't even see the damn thing. So I'm going to split this video into three parts, guys. First we'll go over taking out enemy jets, since those are the most dangerous to you really, and then we'll go over helicopters and finally armor on the ground. Now, if you haven't done this already, I really recommend binding your spacebar button to pitch up. This really helps a lot in dogfights, especially if, well, obviously only if you're playing on PC. That way you're not going to have to swipe your mouse hand constantly across your mouse pad. You can just hold down spacebar to pitch up and keep on doing your nice sharp turn. If you're playing on console, you don't really need to worry about it, since holding down those thumbsticks isn't really too strenuous. So for most of these examples here, just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to be showing you, hopefully, examples of the enemy jet in front of me actually realizing that I'm behind him, so he's going to be pulling some sort of evasive maneuver and I'm going to be trying to keep up with him and lead the target. And that is the thing you're going to have to get good at for taking out enemy jets. You're going to have to lead your target quite a lot. You know, he's traveling really fast, he's probably doing a pretty steep turn and you're following him. You're going to have to lead him quite a lot, and as a general rule of thumb, I actually like to use the big round circle. I don't rely on the crosshairs all too much, and hopefully you guys can see from the footage that actually when I'm getting the hit markers on the enemy jet, the crosshairs aren't on the jet at all, they are way in front of him, and that's why I prefer to rely on the big circle. So I pretty much try and visualize that circle and keep it in front of the enemy jet at all times when I'm actually trying to hit him with my main cannon, so I will lead him just with the outer rim of that circle, you notice. Now this is given that I'm going to be turning at the optimal speed, and the guy in front of me is a decent pilot and he's going to be doing the same thing. Of course there are always going to be situations where you're up against a pilot who really isn't very good at all and he's maybe turning very slowly, and in those situations you're obviously going to have to compensate for that by not leading the target too much. You guys are going to have to get good at that for yourselves. There are so many factors that go into figuring out how you need to lead your target. You know, the speed of the enemy jet, how much he's turning, how fast you're going, how far away he is. You have to sort of calculate all of these things on the fly and figure out how far you actually need to lead the enemy jet by. And this is just something that you will get better at as time goes on. You might be terrible at aiming at enemy jets in the attack jet, guys, but believe me, stick with it, practice, and you will get better. One tip I can give you guys about killing enemy jets specifically is that you really want to wait until you have a good chance. Don't aim at an enemy jet that is like halfway across the battlefield and give him a few pot shots with your 30 mils, because he's going to cotton on to the fact that you're trying to kill him really fast, and once he starts pulling evasive maneuvers, especially if he turns out to be a really good pilot, it's going to make it very difficult for you to actually take him out. You're going to have to waste time doing that when you could be killing other targets and helping out your team, and it will probably also put you in danger. I've been in many a situation where I will be in a dogfight with an enemy jet and he's so good at evasive maneuvers that it takes me so long to kill him. The other enemy jet spawns and he comes to help out and they end up killing me. So wait until you're behind him, especially if he hasn't realized that you're there yet, and wait until you have a good opportunity to take him out with one full blast of your machine guns. Moving on, we're going to be talking about aiming at enemy helicopters. Now the first thing you have to do whilst taking out a helicopter is figuring out where he is, and you're going to realize that I use free look a hell of a lot. I'm usually trying to spot the enemy helicopter because they're quite small at times, and if you're pretty far away from the enemy heli, it's nice to have him spotted up so that you can see him and therefore start firing at him a little bit earlier. And this is where having a low vehicle sensitivity is really going to come in handy, whereas before you were using the spacebar to do most of your dogfighting, this time around you're going to be using your mouse hand to do these fine little tweaks and adjustments to your aim. Now, the great news about helicopters is that they can't move anywhere near as fast as the jets, so you're not going to have to lead them quite as much. What you want to do is get a decent amount of distance between yourself and the enemy helicopter and start to close in on him and register which direction he's going on. So as you get closer and you're actually able to properly see the helicopter, you'll notice that he'll usually be traveling in a certain direction, especially if he's just traveling from flag to flag, so he's not engaging enemies or doing evasive maneuvers, he's just going from A flag to B flag. He's probably going to be going to the left of you or to the right, or maybe upwards or downwards. And what you really want to do is use your crosshair and start tracking him ever so slightly just in front of the helicopter. You don't want to fire upon him yet and alert him that you're there. You want to wait until you close in and the distance is a little bit less to make sure that all your bullets are going to hit him. Once you feel that you're tracking him well and you're close enough to him, you just want to open fire and try and really kill him and take him out before he even realizes that you're attacking him. The hard thing with helicopters is when they realize you're actually trying to hit you, they can be very unpredictable in which direction they're going to go in, and jets aren't the same. You know, jets are pretty predictable, they're always going to go forward, but helicopters can do a sudden about swing and completely change direction. They can drop in altitude, they can gain altitude. You really want to get good at taking them out before they really realize what is happening. Now, the attack helis are probably going to be a lot easier to take out because they're much less nimble, much less agile than the scout helicopters. But on the plus side of the scout helicopters, you can actually shoot pilots out of the scout helicopters themselves, so you don't always have to disable them or destroy them. You can shoot out the pilot, you can also shoot guys out the side who are repairing. So it's also worth noting that these should probably be higher on your priority list than any kind of armor, except for the anti-air tank maybe, because if you've already taken out both the stealth jet and the attack jet, the anti-air tank isn't in the picture, then go after the scout helis and go after the attack helis, because they do have heat seekers equipped almost sort of 90% of the time. I've never really seen an attack heli pilot use tow missiles too often before, and they can be a bit of a pain in the arse if they decide they're gonna go after you. Alrighty guys, so moving on to taking out enemy armor, IFVs, main battle tanks, all that good stuff. These are really going to be your targets that you want to go for if you've taken down all of the enemy helicopters. Now, aiming at tanks is pretty similar to aiming at enemy helicopters, only they move even slower than the helicopters, so in a lot of ways it's easier, but you're going to be using your mouse hand and the A and D keys on the keyboard to do some small adjustments to your aiming. There are, however, some differences, so angle of attack matters a lot more here. You can pretty much attack a helicopter from any angle, but when it comes to a tank, if you can at all alter your trajectory, so you attack it from the side or from the back, that's going to be really beneficial for you, and more often than not, you'll be able to take it down before he's able to pop his APS. And that actually brings me to another point, guys. You really have to know when to break off your attack. You're going to end up getting locked on a lot whilst you try to take out enemy armor. There will be a lot of stingers on the ground, so engineers with stingers and igglers who will try and lock you on as you get closer to the ground trying to take out the armor. If you're facing the ground and you get hit by an active radar missile, you're going to have a bad day. You're pretty much going to go plummeting into the ground. You won't be able to pull up because you'll take a mobility hit. So if you get locked on, make sure you just break off the attack, pull up so that you're flying, just towards the horizon. If you get hit by a missile, you can still control things and you can still manage to survive. Secondly, if the tank or the IFV decides to pop APS, once again, just break off the attack because you're not going to be able to do any damage anyway. So if you see those glowing, bright yellow flames, just forget about him for now. Turn around, gain some distance, come back, and have another go. Now, a lot of people like to use rocket pods to take out enemy armor, and what they usually do is give them a barrage of rocket pods from a longer distance, and then as they get a little bit closer and the tank becomes a little bit more visible, they use the 30mm, which of course have less splash damage than the rockets. Personally, I like to fly with JDAMs most of the time, not really because they're better, but just because I think they're more cool, and I just really enjoy getting kills with those things. So that's just, me, that's my preference. But taking out enemy tanks solely with the 30mm is definitely an acquired skill, and really, the skill hides in simply being able to see the tank, visibly actually see the thing. The great thing about helicopters is a lot of the time they're against the backdrop of some smoke or the ground or the sky, in the horizon, so you can easily see them from a far distance and you can start firing upon them pretty early once you get good with aiming it with the 30mm. But with the tanks, they're on the ground and they're this just sort of blackish, greyish colour that blends in with sand and most of the textures in Battlefield 4, so if you're at a pretty far distance, it's actually really difficult, even if the tank is spotted, to see exactly where it is. In fact, a lot of the time, even if I cannot see the tank, I will aim just underneath the tank symbol. So the tank symbol, when you spot somebody in the UI, I'll aim just south of that, and that usually ends up being exactly where the tank is. Now when it comes to infantry, I'm not really going to be covering that too much because the truth is that you're going to be spending 90% of your time taking out enemy vehicles. If you're lucky enough to have taken out all of the enemy vehicles on the map, then sure, go and try and spot up some infantry, but even that is a challenge within itself. In most cases, by the time you get close enough to actually spot infantry by yourself, you're so close to the ground that you've already lost your window of opportunity to shoot at them. But if you see some infantry who are already spotted up, then you can shoot just south of the Dorito that appears above their head. You probably won't be able to see the actual body of the infantry player because it's just so small and you'll be so far away in the attack jet, but if you aim just south of the Dorito, you can usually get a kill. So that's a wrap, guys. I hope you found this one useful, and good luck getting some kills in the attack jet. As always, practice really does make perfect, so I would just recommend going out there and getting in the attack jet at every possible chance that you get in any map. If you're really having difficulties taking out the enemy jets and they keep on killing you, just work at that. Don't go and try and take out enemy armor until the enemy jets are down. Really work on taking out the enemy jets, and once you've mastered that, hopefully you'll get a chance to pick on some of the enemy armor and some of the enemy helicopters as well. Thanks once again for watching, guys. Drop it a like down below if you enjoyed it, and leave a comment as well. Let me know what you guys would like to see in the next tutorial. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you next time.